Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Sonic Multiverse. During the build-up for the game Sonic Forces, there was a lot of questions revolving around the new villain, Infinite. People questioned who this guy was, what his role in the story would be, and after Sonic Mania released, they wondered how he was connected to the Phantom Ruby. One user by the name Henke proposed the idea that Tails could be Infinite, specifically one from another universe. Now, obviously this turned out to be false. However, as someone who only heard this theory after playing Sonic Forces back in 2017, I thought it was an interesting take on the character. After all, although I personally like Infinite as the cold-hearted, egotistical psychopath that he is, I think it would be way more interesting if Infinite was a fallen friend. Now, the theory proposed by Henke, link in the description, was based mostly around the alternate ending of Game Gear Sonic 2. For those unaware, in Game Gear Sonic 2, your main objective is to save Tails, who has been kidnapped by Dr. Eggman. However, if you fail to get all the Chaos Emeralds, you'll get the bad ending, where Tails remains captured by the Doctor and is seemingly killed. However, this theory proposes the idea that in this reality, Tails is mutated into Infinite. And by some series of events, he would leave his dimension and invade the modern Sonic universe, kind of like how classic Sonic ended up in Sonic Forces. Now, that's definitely an interesting way to take this. However, no offense to Henke and his theory, but I think it's overly complicated, and putting that aside, I mean, let's be honest, this is Sonic, everything's overly complicated. It just wouldn't have the same emotional impact. I mean, sure, it's Tails, but it's a Tails of another universe. Modern Sonic doesn't know him. So instead, what if Dr. Eggman got a hold of Tails in the modern canon and altered the innocent fox into his ultimate weapon of destruction? What if Tails became Infinite? Our story begins on the mysterious mini-planet known as the Lost Hex. Sonic and Tails team up with Dr. Eggman to defeat his rebellious minions, the Deadly Six. Like in the original story, Zavok, with the help of his former master, Zik, come up with the plan to roboticize Sonic and make him their slave. However, when the trap is sprung, it is ultimately Tails who is captured, and not the Blue Hedgehog. Although Zavok and Zik are initially annoyed by these turns of events, they choose to use Tails, knowing that Sonic wouldn't hurt his best friend. After a while, Tails is prepped for roboticization. "Your friend has embarrassed me for the last time. You will be my instrument of revenge." As Zaman prepared the final preparations, the lumbering oaf left his sandwich on the table. In the original timeline, Tails used the toothpick from this sandwich to reprogram the supercomputer, so instead of being roboticized, he only got the outer casing of the robotic exoskeleton, meaning that he kept his mind intact. However, in this timeline, things played out differently. Zavok noticed the crummy, greasy mess on his workbench. "You can be unorderly in your own quarters, Zaman. But get that wretched excuse for subsistence off of my table." With that, the orange glutton picked up the sandwich and wolfed it down in one fell swoop. Tails now had no way of reaching the supercomputer, meaning the roboticization played out as intended. The events of Sonic Lost World play out as for normal until Sonic comes in contact with Zavok, Xena, and Zor for the final time. On cue, Tails landed in his new roboticized form in front of Sonic. It appeared as if the life itself had been drained from the fox as he stared emotionlessly at Sonic. "Tails, what have they done to you?" With no audible response, Tails aims his arm-mounted cannon at Sonic's head. "Give up now, Sonic, and join your friend." "Never." "Very well. Tails, destroy him." "Very well, Master Zavok." As Tails marches towards his enemy, Sonic tries to reason with Tails. "Come on, Tails, snap out of it! I don't want to have to fight you." The Hedgehog's pleas fall on deaf ears. However, before Miles pulls the trigger, his body begins to twitch and glitch as if something was fighting for control. A strange noise could be heard by both Sonic and the Zeddy. Tails suddenly spins around on his heels, shooting at the Zeddy. The Zeddy are taken aback. The roboticized fox doesn't seem to be affected by their technoesis anymore. Sonic smirks, initially thinking that his friend has returned to him. However, sadly, that wasn't the case. A gargantuan robot in Eggman's likeness appears. "Hello, Sonic. Zavok, did you miss me?" "Eggman, how are you? What have you done?" "It's quite simple, you scarlet simpleton. I was tired of you playing with my toys. So, I created a radio wave that cancels out your technopathic frequencies. After Q-Bot's infection, it was quite simple to come up with countermeasures. Now all of my minions, including Tails, are back under my control." Eggman looked at Sonic. "You helped Tails deal with Xena and Zor. Zavok is mine." With their shaky alliance re-established, Sonic helps Eggman fight the Zeddy. Sonic and Tails quickly leaped into action, attacking Zor and Xena. The Zeddy were still powered up by the energy collected from Earth, but Sonic and Tails were far more experienced. Xena tried to catch Sonic with her signature energy whips, but Sonic simply used the momentum from it to kick her in the face, knocking her out. Tails took full advantage of his cybernetic gun. The blaster began to spout out lasers in all directions, several of them hitting Zor. Thanks to his powered-up state, he would live, but a blow like that would definitely leave a mark. "Ha! Way to go, Tails!" Tails simply responded with an emotionless glance. Clearly, the conditioning of the roboticization was still in effect. Zavok growled, "Fools! Must I do everything myself?" With that, Zavok began tapping into the energy stolen from Earth, unveiling his gargantuan final form. The towering titan of a Zeddy spat fireballs at Eggman's mech. With a couple quick maneuvers, Eggman dodged the attacks and countered with his own. The Mega Egg Robo formed 3 massive fireballs of its own, hurling them at the Mega Zeddy. Despite making direct contact with Zavok's flesh, it only slowed him down. The former slave and former master began battling in direct combat, Zeddy to mech. A series of haymakers and thunder-cracking punches broke out in this kaiju-style battle, but ultimately, Zavok's superior strength tossed the Egg Robo aside. Eggman realized that he had underestimated the power of Zavok. Seems I'll need to kick things up a notch. With that, Eggman's mech began drilling into the ground, creating massive spikes to slow down Zavok long enough to charge up his final attack. The Egg Robo began amassing a giant fireball, similar to the one seen earlier, but far more powerful. As Zavok charged in for the final blow, Eggman launched the attack. The miniaturized sun hit Zavok directly in the face. This earth-shattering attack cost Eggman all the energy he had left, but it was more than Zavok could take. The blast sent Zavok flying, all the way off of the Lost Hex to the earth below. The leader of the Deadly Six was down for the count. Eggman cackled to himself in triumph. That's what happens when you mess with the best. With the Zeddy dealt with, Eggman now turned to Sonic. Now, I believe our partnership has ended, Hedgehog. Hey, our deal was that I stopped the Zeddy and you restored the planet. And you were foolish enough to believe me. Tails, suppressive fire. As the Egg Robo began to take off, Tails began firing bolts of energy at his former friend. Unable to get enough height to attack Eggman and unwilling to attack Tails, Sonic was forced to retreat. The events of Sonic Lost World come to a bittersweet end. The Zeti may have been defeated, but many regions of the Earth had been drained of life by Eggman's energy extractor, and worse, he now had Tails under his control. Both Knuckles and Amy were horrified to hear what happened to Tails, and promised that they would help Sonic find him. The story comes to an end as Sonic looks out on a horizon, hoping to find where Eggman has taken his little buddy. He looks out onto a dead forest, but deep within it is a single flower, which despite everything, has survived. Maybe hope isn't gone. Not yet, anyway. Elsewhere, in an unknown laboratory, Eggman walks through the halls, preparing to begin a new experiment. What those Zeti did to you, Tails, was truly monstrous. I mean, just look at that armor. So unrefined, so inadequate. But don't worry. When I'm done with you, you'll be my perfect source of infinite destruction.